Welcome to another episode of The Tech Baddie. I'm your host, Brooke Sweetar, and today I'm joined by my good friend, Rob Goday. We're here to discuss the impact of technology on disaster relief. So, Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Rob, as we're getting started, for anyone who doesn't know you or know anything about your background, I'd love for you to just take a minute to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm 55. I started in tech way back in about 1994, 1993. And in fact, I took my first programming class in 1987 in high school. But, I always say it was the same year Revenge of the Nerds came out. And I just didn't see a role for myself in technology. In 1987, of course, the internet wasn't around. So I had another career in the restaurant industry. I started waiting tables for a steakhouse chain and ended up becoming general manager of my own store. But at that time, the internet was coming out. We're talking 93, 94. I got on AOL and started surfing the web and figuring out what websites were about, and decided I wanted to do that, and slowly made a career change. And by 1997, I had my first job. And ever since then, I've been a full-time utilizing technology, primarily Microsoft products, to empower myself and citizens to do things online. I'm a online community builder. But I was honored in 2006. I was actually hired along with other developers from around the globe to help write the test exams, Microsoft's new .NET architecture test exams. And so myself and about 12 other people were flown to Redmond, and we've got to write those test exams in C#. I see everything through a technology lens and wonder how it can impact the world.
That's so awesome, Rob. And just for people, like I said, who don't know you or our story, you and I connected really early on when I was still a boot camp student at the start of 2024. I can't believe it's already 2025. It's gone by so fast. And you were my first in real life coffee chat. And I talk about doing those all the time virtually, but I was reaching out, trying to build my network on LinkedIn just with local people, because I figured if you were local, you might be more likely to accept my request and maybe we could have a conversation. And then you're like, yeah, do you want to meet for coffee? And I was like, really? And it was so awesome. I was new to Louisiana. I didn't really know anyone. And also too, one of the things I loved about our initial conversation, because I didn't know anything about Ground Force, by the way, which is your baby, is your company, is your project. And I was so shocked whenever I first moved to Louisiana from Pennsylvania. I was not used to natural disasters. I mean, a snowstorm, a whiteout is one thing, right? But we have the salt trucks, ahead of time, you buy your groceries, whatever.
Yeah.
But hurricanes, oh my gosh, and tornadoes, and just the monstrosities that I found myself facing, the extreme flooding, even just from some of the rainstorms that we get, were unbelievable. And it was a real wake-up call for me, suddenly being without power for 2 weeks at a time, not being able to get gas, not being able to communicate with loved ones. And that was just a whole new world. And so I was so enamored and impressed, to be honest, with the work that you're doing with Ground Force. And so would you mind sharing a bit about how that came to be and what Ground Force Humanitarian Aid is?
Sure. And let me just say, being in Louisiana is not a super tech savvy state. I'll just be honest. It's a lot of really great, smart tech people located in it. But I have a knack for spotting people that are genuine and wanting to be involved in tech like you were. Really made me say, okay, this person is different. I could tell you're not from around here. The first thing that went through my head. And I said, I got to meet this person. She's bubbly and wants to learn and is eager. And the thing that struck me about our first meeting is you showed up with a notebook and a pen, and you were just asking me so many questions, and you were just eager to learn. I thought that was refreshing, to be honest with you. So it was really great to meet you that way. Natural disasters were not a part of my life until about 8 years ago, when we did have flooding in Baton Rouge, massive flooding. And in fact, I hosted a TV show actually called Mutant Weather. It's on YouTube. It's a flooding episode, and I just watched it last night with my family, and it was about the Baton Rouge flooding. And I saw the power of social media to connect average citizens who wanted to help, but just usually don't. I mean, you can only do so much as a small group, one or two people, but when you have a network where information can be instantly shared like you can on social media. I saw that happening in 2016. And in the course of using it myself to connect people, I realized that social media and the connectivity that online communities play would change how we do natural disasters. And I wanted to be at the front of that. I wanted to be the person making that happen. And so that really began my journey. And, I call myself fortunate. I actually feel fortunate to live where I live and to have the
Mhm.
background that I have and to live at the time in the human experience where we have the internet and technology to change how we do disasters and improve it by empowering every citizen to get involved and to take ownership of a role in their communities or other people's communities, not only during times of disaster, but also every day where people have needs. And so, I believe technology connects us in a lot of ways, and it's just now beginning to really connect us through the use of technology.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you bring up a good point. Like it helps in so many ways, and it really is the best time so far to be alive. I mean, now we have technologies that can help us detect these storms so much further ahead of time, prepare earlier. And it really wasn't too long ago that you just had to get ready very short notice and write it out. And so it does give people more opportunities to make informed decisions, to check in on their loved ones, and decide, okay, are we gonna ride this out, so we need to prepare, or are we going to evacuate? And that's something, another thing too, that I know is near and dear to you, is helping people who get stranded and are cut off with communication. I mean, that actually is one of the most dangerous things that happens, is when people are stuck and maybe no one knows that they're there. And one of, again, the coolest things that I saw in our time together, as I was continuing to learn about your projects, you created this thing called Safe Camp. And I know that stands for Swift Action Force Emergency. And he talks about, like, it's a safe space that provides resources for people in the most urgent times of need, even medical care. Can you share more about how you came up with that and started putting those systems into place? Because it's really impressive, Rob.
Well, yeah, thank you. Like anybody else might have done, I just started responding to disasters, and in the natural progression of beginning to help people, I saw
Mhm.
common things that we were doing. We actually have 5 programs, and Safe Camp is one of those 5. Safe Camp is our first base of operations. It's what we do in wartime. We set up a forward operating base, and Safe Camp, you can think of it as our forward operating base. But it's not just for us, it's for citizens that want to volunteer. And I did it organically 4 years ago in Lake Charles, Walmart's parking lot. And it was a neat thing to see car line come through where we're handing out supplies. And then it became a rally point for volunteers going in the community every morning and helping for us to organize. And a few months later, I was thinking about that experience, and it occurred to me that, and in fact, the full story, I was researching Lake Charles, which is my hometown, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Now, this was hit by Hurricane Laura in 2020, August 2020. Hurricane Laura is the 5th strongest storm in recorded history, and it just devastated the city. And I was trying to find ways to keep Lake Charles in the mind of the American public. And so one of the things I do is I research famous people from towns, and I try to tell stories about those people as well so that it connects to individuals. And one of those people is a guy named Michael DeBakey. Michael DeBakey. Now, Lake Charles is a little tiny town on the Gulf Coast. So Michael DeBakey is considered in human history to be the best surgeon to have ever lived. And he's from my hometown of Lake Charles, Louisiana, and that's in human history, kind of a cool thing. He also
Mhm.
developed the MASH concept, which is a television show, of course, but it's Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. He came up with the acronym. He developed the concept of that forward operating base, a medical unit, and called it that. And so I connected MASH and started saying, well, we kind of did a MASH kind of concept in Walmart's parking lot. And then my team developed the Safe Camp idea for Swift Action Force Emergency Camp. So that's how the concept came to be. And it occurred to me that I might want to pitch this idea to Walmart as well to see if they would get behind us and encourage us to set up safe camps in Walmart's parking lots across the country. Anywhere you live, you're 30 minutes from a Walmart nationwide. And in fact, Walmart has 8,000
Right.
stores around the world. And so it
Hmm.
just made sense. And so I created an animated video showing how I envisioned it working. And I sent it to a guy named Brooks Nelson, who is the president of the Walmart Foundation and hands out the Walmart family funds. And they actually were interested in it. Replied and said, "We really like this." And since then, Walmart has sponsored
Hmm.
Safe Camp. They actually have sponsored us on for 3 Safe Camp deployments since then. One in Kentucky, one in Florida, and most recently in North Carolina, where we are just now wrapping up after about 9 weeks on the ground. They're helping in North Carolina. So that's how Safe Camp came to be. And it's a concept that we're sharing with others and showing how to work. And it's not like we have a membership of people that show up. It's a platform for the American public to come and help. And anybody that wants to volunteer in a
Hmm.
community that's impacted can come to Safe Camp. We have a vetting process to figure out what you are best at, and then we put you to work helping in whatever way that best fits what your skill sets are. And so that's Safe Camp. And our other programs are community caretaking, which is where we go in the community, and we help citizens with all manner of needs, tarping
Hmm.
roofs or cleaning out homes or really anything, delivering medication. And we have a mailbox project going on right now where we're restoring over 200 mailboxes. Mailboxes are important because when you're on
Wow.
Social Security and you're
Yeah.
elderly and you need that check, where is it going to go? And you can't drive to get it a lot of times. And so small things like
Wow.
that, that's literally community caretaking. And then another one we call remote team, and that's our team that takes care of us remotely and monitors what we're doing. Then we have a training program, and then we have a storytelling program as well, which I'm really excited about right now. Brooke, our storytelling program is adding about 1,000 new followers a day right now on our Facebook page, which is
Congratulations,
crazy.
Rob. That's huge.
We're about to beat 200,000 followers on our Facebook page, which is huge. And
That's
it's just through sharing
awesome.
reels. We've shared probably 30 reels in the last
Okay.
2-3 weeks, and we've added over
Hmm.
15,000 followers just from sharing Facebook reels. That's one of the most important things we can do is storytelling and getting people engaged to help us and come and help the communities that are impacted by disaster.
Absolutely. And especially in the realm of disaster relief, it's about the people. It literally, at the base level, it's about the families, the communities, the human beings that are impacted by these natural disasters. And so, I mean, you and I have met in person multiple times, and oh my gosh, every time you show me these footage that your team has captured, and I'm moved to tears almost every single time because it's just real. These are people who have lost their homes, who have faced really traumatic events that come from these natural disasters, and it's hard to swallow, but it is real life. And sharing those stories, it resonates with people. It makes it more real. It's not just, oh hey, donate today, here's this pop-up ad. It's, no, Margaret, from Lake Charles has actually experienced this, and we need real people to show up. We need, we need water, we need medical supplies, we need people who have these skills. And it's so much more powerful that way. And I do think that you've really done a great job of connecting those dots and bridging that gap, because I do think that sometimes there is a gap with that. And, kudos to you. I'm so happy to hear that news, Rob.
It's the power of technology. It really kind of, in a way, eliminates the middleman. There's still a few layers, like you have to
Sure.
make sure that the people you're helping actually need the help, and you have to make sure the people that are helping actually are capable of helping. But once you've done that and you connect them, it's a service type industry. I mean, sometimes there's pay, sometimes there's not. Usually there's not. But it's the Uber of disasters. Uber eliminated the need for dispatchers, right? And so
Hmm.
in the same way that you sit on a corner and you just need a service, you just need a ride to somewhere. I mean, you pull a car pulls up and you get in it. We're connecting citizens that have a need, and we connect them. We connect people that can help them to fulfill that service. And so it's really is the power of technology. And most recently, Hurricane Helene cut a path from Florida all the way up to North Carolina and through Georgia, South
Hmm.
Carolina, Florida, and then North Carolina. And I've actually been up in North Carolina I'm here right now actually, for the past
Oh,
nine
okay.
weeks helping. I haven't been home. And then
Wow.
when Helene hit North Carolina, I came up here, and we've been working in the mountains of North Carolina. And, I just shared a reel 30 minutes ago. for our volunteers who are building tiny homes in the mountains right now for people who lost their homes. Hurricane Helene in one town on a mountaintop dropped 24 inches of water in about 3 days. And all of that water funneled down through the ravines and the valleys and then caused massive flooding. It killed over 150 people. There's about 9 or 10 people still missing. 30 counties were impacted. Some bodies were carried through the water over 20 miles and were found 20 or 30 miles away, even in other states. And so it was really horrific. And the stories, are sad, but the media moves on and people forget. And that's the power of social media is we can continue telling stories and keeping citizens engaged for longer, and that helps people recover more quickly. And so that's what we do. We use social media as a tool to be able to continue helping, and it's really powerful. And that's our mission. That's why I say we're building an online community. We have 200,000 followers on Facebook. Between our other platforms, we have another 200,000. So we're at about 400,000 followers right now. But imagine if we had 100 million followers or even 10 million followers. If I went live and I said, hey, I need you to show up. I need you to volunteer, and here's what we need you to do. Man, we would have so many people helping, and that helps people recover more quickly. And so that's what we're doing. And I'm
That's
also developing a custom platform. We're developing the LinkedIn of disasters. It's stability.org. And what Stability is doing
okay.
is creating disaster ready communities by empowering individuals, people with common bonds, such as faith based
Mhm.
organizations, community groups. We just signed all 50 Rotaries in the state of Mississippi to be trained on how to respond to disasters through our programs, and they can create and upload there and share their own programs. And so it's a powerful tool that connects the victims to the people that can help them and really does eliminate the middleman and creates disaster ready communities.
Wow, that is phenomenal, Rob. And yeah, I do think that that is another area where there's disconnect. Is there are all of these amazing organizations out there, but they're separated, and so having a place where they can all truly come together, pull those resources, and make the greatest impact is unbelievable. And unfortunately, and I know you know this with the climate issues that we're facing, the storms like what hit the Carolinas, that was unprecedented. I mean, the people there were not prepared for how huge that impact was. And that was just absolutely devastating for so many. And unfortunately, I don't see an obvious immediate improvement in that. And so it is more essential than ever that we get stronger systems in place and help these communities that are already more at risk than others to be as prepared as possible.
Hurricane Helene, caused over 600 landslides in the mountains of North Carolina. And the landslides washed away entire towns with people in the buildings into lakes, into these massive rushing things of water. They knew the hurricane was coming, but they didn't realize the amount of rain that would fall and how the water would accumulate in the streams and all the creeks that run through these mountains and just become torrents that ripped apart entire forests. We drove down through one county we drove through one city named Relief, North Carolina, and there's a river in it that had an island with these gigantic, beautiful trees in it, and the trees are just laid over on this island like matchsticks. And it's just all completely covered with mud, and it's really shocking to see. There's parts of homes and cars mingled in it, and this happened on the east side and the west side of the Appalachians. Some of it ran south towards kind of the Atlantic, and some of it ran north towards like the Mississippi River side, and it was really pretty horrific.
That's unimaginable. Just, and I know you are such a boots on the ground person yourself, Rob. Like, you, I know, are always going to be one of the first people actually on the scene. You're not just the guy running the program. I'm genuinely always so impressed with how much you do and how invested you are, and just how authentic and real you are. That was one of the things that drew me to you, and I'm so blessed I get to call you friend now. And when I was fortunate enough a few months back to join a safe camp training of yours, and I was so impressed.
Right.
It was such a well-oiled machine, and I know it's come from years of figuring all this stuff out, right? Nothing starts out perfect, but resources for having a kitchen to provide hot meals to the cars that would be lining up, medical care, uh, having charts, so QR codes and whatnot, so we could figure out what specific needs each individual or family had, right? So how many supplies to provide, the first aid, the technology resources, so that people who weren't able to at one point communicate with their loved ones could have a safe place to do so. Even just the psychological care, and that's something that I think is not talked about enough. It really is trauma. It's not just losing power, not having access to food. It's the after impact of seeing your home get swept away, your safe space where you raised your family, and those memories. I mean, that truly is devastating, far beyond just the material loss.
Yeah, disasters can be broken up into three verticals, so to speak. And this is where kind of think about where money is spent. The federal government will help when there's bridges out, or public buildings, or telephone poles, or roads that are destroyed, or water towers, things that go to public infrastructure. Those are covered actually, great part, up to 75% of those costs can be covered by FEMA. And then the local counties and states have to match that. The other two areas though are individuals' private property. Now, the government is not involved in private property at all. FEMA will give money to individuals that lose their homes or their contents of their homes, as long as they can show ownership and show that, the value of what the loss is. The other area, though, is really the human touch. There's no money in that. The government's not involved in it. It is up to neighbors, it's up to friends, family, these loose groups of individuals with common bonds that want to get together and help, faith-based organizations. That's where really the human touch is. And I think people group disasters all into one common area, but the reality is there's different verticals where certain things happen. And the more I've been on the ground, the more I've come to understand how disasters work. And in fact, that's been my goal in being on the ground so quickly and for staying long periods of time, is to really understand how they work, because you can't build a platform, you can't connect people, you can't really implement technology to solve a problem until you understand what that problem is in an intimate way. And so I've spent over 3 years, just in the last 5 years, deployed on the ground helping with disasters. Like I said, I haven't been home in almost 9 weeks. My cats miss me. I haven't checked my mail in 9 weeks. I've been paying my bills. But that's what it takes. It takes um, getting in, rolling your sleeves up, and just going and doing. And building relationships with the organizations that are out there, managing volunteers, working with victims, seeing how the systems work with the government. I've done all of that. I've done it in a myriad of ways. I've failed sometimes. We've had some big wins, and we work with corporations. And so now I'm very confident in what needs to happen. I say I'm probably have more experience in boots on the ground disaster relief than anybody in the United States. I would challenge anybody to say they have roll your sleeves up, look the victim in the eye experience like I have. And my background happens to
Right.
be business system development. So I'm combining that knowledge of disasters with what it takes to build business systems and developing a new way to think about disasters, a new generation of disaster relief, so to speak.
And because you founded this in 2016, that was a starting point for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
2016, we had
Okay.
the
So,
flooding in South Louisiana, that where I got involved, and I saw firsthand what technology could do, but also the lack of citizen response. And so I've combined this, let's get together and really trying to create a movement with using technology to do it through stability.org and through Ground Force Humanitarian Aid, as a national response organization.
so what would you say over the years have been some of the biggest challenges or lessons that you've learned from implementing this? Because this is something that you yourself have built from the ground up, and it takes a lot of moving parts. I mean, you're brilliant. You have the technical know how, just years of experience, and you have the passion and the drive. and you care, right? But how much more difficult is it to coordinate all these different moving parts and make all of this happen?
Yeah, I've had to get involved in an industry that isn't even a year-round type of approach. I have to wait till something happens and go and get involved and learn about it. That's been an interesting approach to building something. It's not like I can work on something year-round to try to bring it forth. I have to work on it really quickly when it's going on and then shift my focus to something else and then come back to it. There's a lot of moving parts here, and there's been a lot of challenges, working with volunteers and understanding the unique needs of people who are coming in to help, understanding that not everybody should be helping. You're in a place where people are extremely vulnerable. You have single women, you have mothers, single moms with children, you have the elderly. These folks can be taken advantage of very easily. And I think protecting
Right.
them from individuals with questionable backgrounds who come in maybe for redemption. Um, I would say there's such a low barrier to entry in disasters. Anybody who rolls in a truck with a clipboard and a pen and a badge on, a lanyard can look important, but what can they really do? That's the question, and that's one of the problems that I'm working on solving, is making sure people that actually show up, that are citizens and they mean well, are actually doing something that's worthwhile and that has some oversight. If you show up and you create a nonprofit and you go into a disaster zone and you start helping people, there's nobody to say, how are you helping them and what are you doing? And
Yeah.
is it hurting the whole process more than helping? There's nobody to do that, and there probably never will be. I think online communities are a great example, though. They often self-regulate the bad players, and so we need to somehow
Mhm.
self-regulate the bad players that show up in natural disasters. I'm thinking very specifically of two individuals who came to North Carolina that caused some problems, and I very quickly was able to determine that they had criminal records. People make mistakes, but some people do not belong in disaster response, and these two gentlemen did not belong in disaster response, and in my opinion, at
Mhm.
least. So I think that there's a lot of challenges to what we're trying to do in empowering a movement of citizens to help, but it certainly is achievable. And at a time when FEMA is really out of money, we as citizens really should be stepping up to help. And I'll also say a lot of people are upset with FEMA for not doing this or not doing that. But the interesting thing to me is that those individuals oftentimes don't want the government involved in their lives at all. And so, we have responsibility as American citizens to, if we don't want the government to be in a part of our life on a beautiful day, we got to step up and take responsibility on a bad day, because they're not going to be there on a bad day either. So that's the caveat that I think people should really start to think about, is that the federal government and FEMA and even the local government a lot of times are not designed to help you after disasters. It's up to you and me and our neighbors to do that.
That's so beautifully put, Rob, honestly. Yeah, and it comes down to that accountability, and that is one thing that is so beautiful, I think, about social media. It makes people all across the world aware of things that otherwise just you wouldn't be, right? It's not, because you also can't necessarily count on major news stations, to be your main source of information. Sometimes there's so much more power of a single video that some random person posts that goes viral, showing what's going on and reaching a unique audience. And it's really wonderful because it allows everyday people to have a voice, to raise awareness about these different issues or events that are going on. And I do think that that's beautiful, and you've clearly done a very good job doing so on social media. And I, this year myself, have really come to appreciate the power of using a platform like that and gaining an audience. And before I started my boot camp, I was never a social media person, definitely never was posting videos or anything of the sort. But I come to respect and appreciate how much it means whenever you do have people paying attention to your mission and to what you're saying, and having that interpersonal support. It's digital, but it's still human beings connecting and resonating with your mission and everything that you're about. And I just commend you, my friend. I think you've done a very, very marvelous job.
Thank you. Yeah, social media is the law of attraction at work.
Right. Yeah.
if you sing well and you sing, let's say you just sing, you're an amazing singer. If you sing alone, um, I mean, nobody's gonna care. But if you can put it out there to the world, you're gonna attract people who love what you're singing. And so I think that's the nature of today's society is really to be comfortable using platforms, putting your name out there, press that record button, and put yourself out there. Takes a minute to get comfortable with it, as you probably learned and I've learned. But at some point, you just realize that it is going to draw to you the people that will be interested and will align with who you are, and that's the important thing. You'll get trolls and haters, and you can block them or ignore them, and then only focus on the ones who really connect with what you do. That's what we do, and that's what we're doing for disasters, is telling stories and drawing people in to help.
I love the phrase "your vibe attracts your tribe." I say that a lot, but I absolutely think it's true. With my content, for me, I'm a one man band. Just sharing my story about breaking into tech, and I like to laugh and have a good time, and it's definitely been awesome, very vulnerable to put myself out there, but also amazing. The return of my investment in those efforts has been so overwhelmingly positive, and so that's fantastic. But you are so entrepreneurial. You're definitely not afraid to try things. You're not afraid to break things. And you also run so many different things. Like I said, there are always so many different moving parts, people you need to stay on top of communicating with. And I just want to ask you a little bit about your systems. First of all, out of personal interest, because I find myself branching out and doing new endeavors, and it's very difficult. But also, I do think that there are a lot of people in tech in general who tend to be entrepreneurial, especially after they've been in tech for a while. They get itchy to
Hmm.
do their own startup or invest in new things. So how do you keep everything running and don't lose wheels off your bus?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a good time manager, for sure. And I'm up really early every day. I've developed my
Mm-hmm.
own checklist, so to speak. I call it the playbook, where I lay out my top initiatives for the day, and then all the tasks that I need to do for the day. It's kind of my 15 minutes every morning where I'm evaluating the things that are most important for me to accomplish for that day. A football game, the players on the field have a playbook they follow, and they're run by the coach. Well, mine is my personal playbook that I run every single day, and it keeps me on track with the most important things I need to be doing. It's really straightforward, but it's a process that sometimes makes me too efficient. You have to be careful to not get too many plates spinning, because it really works really well when you get done with something, you move to the next thing. You have to manage the tasks in a way that is achieving your goals, and it's good because it gets the hard things out of the way and lets you think about the bigger problems that you need to solve. And I think when you have a lot of things going on, it's really a great way to manage your day. And if you don't have a lot of great things going on, it's a great way to get a lot of great things going on. Like if you don't develop a basic plan, you're just wandering. And
Yep.
writing down every day what it is you're trying to accomplish keeps you focused on the most important things, and time boxing it even. So, I work in 5 minute increments. I actually have a timer on my desk that clicks off every 5 minutes, and I can evaluate the process,
Wow.
how far I'm moving in the direction of the things I want to accomplish. And so, the importance of time management is huge. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's just
Yep.
how do you utilize that time, right? And so by
Oh my
doing that,
gosh.
I'm, developing stability
Mhm.
to create disaster-ready communities. We're actually building right now into it, a feed where you can share stories, you can upload photos and videos, you can post a link, and it'll do like the other platforms and extract out the images and the backstory behind that page. And so
Mhm.
it's LinkedIn for disasters. And when you're doing that, and you're also running a nonprofit that does boots on the ground, and I've actually been writing the code from the lodge where we're staying up here, real time information from the individuals on the ground, and I'm taking the lessons learned and putting them into it. And it's pretty exciting. We've had over 180 teams um, create their own page on stability. And we think we've had about 16,000 people have registered to use stability during Hurricane Helene. It's really taken off. And we
Wow.
use it for vetting our volunteers and getting our volunteers organized. So we create time slots and we let volunteers come in and choose the time slot that they want to come. What job are they going to do? And right now we're also building training into it so that the volunteers can see exactly what their job description is, they get a checklist that shows all the things they need to remember to do. And then
Mm,
the next thing that we're working on, I'm excited to do this, is develop video training as well using Synthesa, which is an AI avatar training video training tool that creates a AI avatar that talks about the training and trains individuals watching it. So we have a lot of things going on, but time management is so important to to get things done. And one of the boxes on my list is friends and family and home life too, because you do have to have some balance. And I make sure that I include, washing my dishes and feeding the cat and taking my wife to dinner.
mm. Good man, Rob. No, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh, I love how I'm actually blown away by how granular you've broken it down to. Like the 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, I thought I was good at time boxing. I need to I need to reevaluate. But
Yeah.
that's actually very
You'd be
cool. I
surprised how much
really
time we waste every day. If you
sure.
if you think in 5 minute increments, like it creates a sense of urgency in what you're doing. You need to find spontaneous ways to operate as well. But those are the creative spaces. And on my playlist, on my playbook, actually, what I have four arrows next to
Okay.
each task. And so they can fall into one of four categories. If there's an up arrow, I just real quick, I'll draw literally an up arrow next to the task. That means I need to do it. It's something for me to do. If it's a down
Mhm.
arrow, that means something I need to learn. I'm going to intake something, right? If it's an arrow
Mm.
to the right, I'm going to assign it to somebody. I'm going to delegate it, and then I write their name and I circle it so I can easily spot it. And if it's to the left, it's just something to think about. It's an idea or it's a note.
Oh my gosh. I'm so impressed with your systems. I think that that's great. I'm a big fan of also writing things down. I have my own system. I won't even get into it because it's more like madness, but at least I write things down to help keep me on track. Oh my gosh, but I have been just so impressed with your drive, your passion. It's so genuine. Those are X factor things that just like in my opinion you either have or you don't. And I know that stability and ground force is extremely blessed to have such a fearless leader that is continuing. I know you're just pushing that ball forward, innovating every step of the way, and it's absolutely amazing. I will want to make sure, by the way, that in the description of all of this, I'll have all of the links for ground force and for stability for people to check out. It's really impressive work. I recommend anyone that's tuning in and listening reach out to Rob. He's a wonderful person to know, but also he's doing really incredible work. And the future is so bright. I'm super fortunate that I've been able to see the little bit of growth I've seen since you and I first got connected months back. And I can't wait to see where you guys go next.
Well, Brooke, it's so good to have you there in Louisiana too. You're a gem in the state, and I hope you find great success in our state. I mean, I'm really glad that you're there. I really genuinely am, and we'll have coffee again soon when I get home.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Rob. I really appreciate it. Again, guys, I'm going to be dropping all those links in the description. So check him out, say hi to him, check out his work, volunteer. It matters. And I promise you, your time is not wasted if you're working with this team. So thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you, Brooke.